Good evening. It is Friday, February 12th, 2021. You ever been doing something and had the feeling that it's happened before? One term for that is déjà vu. It's a French term that means to see again. The passage of scripture we're going to look at tonight is a real sense of déjà vu. It's another mass feeding event, similar in many ways to its most famous forebear, the feeding of the 5,000. Recorded in Mark chapter 8, verses 1 to 10, and again I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition. We read, about this time another large crowd had gathered, and the people ran out of food again. Jesus called his disciples and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They've been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. If I send them home hungry, they'll faint along the way, for some of them have come a long distance. His disciples replied, how are we supposed to find enough food to feed them out here in this wilderness? Jesus asked, well, how much bread do you have? 7 loaves, they replied. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, thanked God for them, and broke them into pieces. He gave them to his disciples, who distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too. And Jesus blessed them and told the disciples to distribute them. They ate as much as they wanted. Afterwards, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover food. There were about 4,000 people in the crowd that day, and Jesus sent them home after they had eaten. Immediately after this, he got into a boat with the disciples and crossed over into the region of Dalmanutha. It's interesting that the people ran out of food again. You'd think that if you lived in a culture that did not have a McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Arby's on every street corner, that you might bring a sack lunch with you if you're planning to be out for a 3-day stint. They may have been expecting Jesus to feed them again, hoping for another miracle. Out of his gracious goodness, he supplied. The words of Jesus to the disciples let us know a couple of things about Jesus. First, he had compassion for them, enough to notice their condition. You know, the children of Israel in the wilderness under Moses were always complaining. But here, we realize Jesus knows the situation before the complaints are even mentioned. Jesus also felt compassion, not anger or judgment. So often we're so quick to blame and seek fault for bad situations. We never actually feel sorry for those in tight situations. Second, Jesus also recognized the need to share this learning experience with the disciples. He did not need their input, but they needed to learn more about Jesus. Too often we keep things to ourselves instead of running the risk of telling others. Third, Jesus also had a comprehensive knowledge of the folks, including where they were from. He talked with them and knew how far they had to travel home. I cannot tell you how many times I've tried to describe someone we were praying for by telling one of the church folks, they're the person that sat next to you in church last week. We need to get to know the people we interact with and listen to them and hear from them and understand who they are. Then he has the same conversation with the disciples. Déjà vu. We don't have enough money. Well, what do you have? There's a lesson there. Every time we're complaining to God about not having enough, God's asking for an honest evaluation of what do you have? So often, we want God to do a wonderful miracle of provision with other people's resources. We want Him to meet a church need by using other people's time investments. We want Him to meet a community need with other people's donations. The question He asked is, how much bread do you have? A few fish were found, added to the mixture. God was thanked, and several basketfuls picked up as leftovers. Compassion care, and provision make up Jesus' actions, but that question still looms. What do you have? God bless you.